Good afternoon. Sawasdee krap. Today is Thursday, the 14th of October, 2021, and this is the English language summary of the press briefing here at the Center for COVID Situation Administration, or CCSA. Thank you, Dr. Tui Sin, for the Thai language briefing. This morning, we had a very, very important meeting, of course, which is the General CCSA meeting, chaired by His Excellency General Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. And there were many important issues and discussions that came out of that meeting. Some were approvals in principle about the plans that we have looking forward. In addition, I'll also capture as well some new information regarding the shortening of curfew times, for example, as well as the adjustment in the Certificate of Entry, or COE, policy, wherein the system will be adopted and the process of documentation will be even shorter. So I believe that this will be of interest to the English language audience here today. So first off, a few minutes ago, the Prime Minister addressed the nation on live television. The Prime Minister delivered this speech, nationally televised, reassuring the nation that he has every confidence in Thailand, that Thailand will realize her full potential as a result of the planned reopening of our borders. Every government agency, including public health authorities, have been working in close cooperation with relevant stakeholders, including the private sector, the Federation of Thai Industries, the Thai Chamber of Commerce, to ensure the synchronization of economic, public health, and other relevant measures with a view to facilitating Thailand's return to post-COVID normalcy. Now, during the General CCSA meeting that ended this morning, there were quite a number of discussions. Firstly, one thing which was said was that the listing of risk countries, meaning countries outside Thailand that we consider to be risk countries in terms of COVID, that list will not exist anymore. We'll throw away that list. Of course, in terms of coming into Thailand, that's about our opening plan, opening of the country. The meeting discussed in principle the list of countries that will be able to enter Thailand without any quarantine, as you may have learned from the news. And there were a few examples, around 5 examples of country in that category that were listed. However, the meeting this morning did not name or finalize the list of countries, the low-risk countries, which would, if you travel from those countries, you would not required to be quarantined. So the General CCSA meeting did not finalize that list yet, but the meeting discussed in principle and tasked the authorities involved under the CCSA to come up with a plan for the reopening of the country, which would identify exactly the countries which would be included in that list. So in principle, it was approved, but not finalized yet. So the authorities within the CCSA have been ordered to come up with that plan for the reopening, as well as other plans in terms of decreasing the quarantine days, including enforcing the illegal entry into the country, integrating foreign labor into the Thai market for those foreign labor that have left the country during the COVID crisis, as well as other plans. So in principle, all of these issues have been approved, and the plans will be coming up in the coming month ahead. But of course, as soon as we have information on the list of countries that will not require quarantine, we will announce that as soon as possible. The issue in the southern border provinces, of course, this remains a very important issue because the situation is quite severe as compared to other regions of the country currently. So that will continue to be a very important focus of the CCSA. I'll start also with an update with the number of vaccinations that we have for today, administered since the start of our national vaccine drive. Yesterday alone, in one day, 583,994 doses of vaccines, increasing the accumulated number of vaccines to over 62.5 million doses. And now you have on screen for you, for clarity, that reported today meaning the recap of yesterday, over 583,000 doses. In total, 62.5 million doses, and you can see the configuration there, the breakdown there of which are the first and which are the second or the third booster doses. So let's turn our attention now to the number of foreign nationals residing in Thailand who have received their COVID-19 vaccination. In the general macro picture, so far, around 1.3 million doses of COVID vaccine have been administered to foreign nationals residing in Thailand, or approximately 17.7% of all foreign nationals in Thailand. And you have an infographic there up on screen for you with the analytics and the detailed information. Of course, this is the macro picture, a combination of various schemes. Now let's talk a little bit about the expat vac scheme as well. We'll have a slide coming up on that for you as well. As you know, the expat vac scheme is the latest scheme that we had for the foreign nationals living in Thailand, administered by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in cooperation with the Ministry of Public Health. Now, as you can see on screen, the number 69,000, that is the number of foreign nationals who have registered under the expat vac scheme, and break down into those above 60-year-old, over 55,000, and those under 60 years old, which is over 13,000. And the chart below, that would be the breakdown in terms of the provinces where the foreign nationals or expats come from for those that have registered under the expat vac scheme. And of course, appointments made in due course. Some have already received. A lot of foreign nationals have already received appointments and the shots since their vaccination. Great. So this will be continued. This will be something that we look forward to have everyone in Thailand vaccinated. As Dr. Tweesin mentioned, at least 50% in the whole country, at least 70% in each province, and of course 70% in the COVID-free area as well. So this will involve, of course, not only Thai nationals but foreign nationals living in Thailand. As we have spoken, as we have repeated this quite often, of course we practice what we preach, and you see the results now in the numbers of people who have been registered in expat vac, or the number of foreign nationals residing in Thailand who have already received their vaccination, which is over 1 million doses already. So that's proof of our commitment to leave no one behind. No one is safe until everyone is safe. And of course, no discrimination in terms of the vaccination of everyone who has a physical presence in Thailand. We talked about this quite often in the past year. And these numbers are proof that we put our word where our mouth is. Now, I'd like to move on to the German assistance donation to Thailand. The German embassy announced yesterday that Germany will donate 347,100 doses of AstraZeneca vaccine to Thailand. The German ambassador to Thailand, you see there on screen, His Excellency Mr. Georg Schmidt, revealed that Germany is very happy, delighted to be part of this inclusive vaccination rollout plan in Thailand through this donation. So thank you very much to Germany as well as to other countries around the world who have provided cooperation and assistance to Thailand all throughout this crisis, throughout this year, since last year as well. Of course, we can't mention every assistance, every cooperation scheme, but from time to time we'll provide you with information on that. Moving on to the number of confirmed cases recorded for today, we have a slide coming up for you there. 11,276 cases recorded yesterday. We have, in terms of the new recoveries, at a close number, which is 10,407. The active cases still being currently treated in Thailand remains at 107,925. For the daily numbers, the new confirmed case, as I mentioned, over 11,000. Total active cases, 107,000 plus. Out of this number, for those who are still being treated, there are 2,890 in critical condition. I think that's a very important number for you to see the how actually we're going. Some may be asymptomatic, but for those with critical condition receiving medical attention, we have that numbering at 2,890. And of that number, 675 are on ventilators. The CCSA General Meeting today, chaired by His Excellency the Prime Minister, General Prayut Chan-o-cha, also considered several measures that are poised to be adjusted in line with the overall plan for Thailand to live under the new normal. The key adjustments, I'll recap that for you, made by the General Meeting this morning. The first is the zoning of provinces. As you recall, the most serious zone is the dark red zone, or what you call the maximum control and strict zone. And then comes the red zone. After dark red comes red zone, which is the maximum controlled, and then the orange or the controlled zones, if you recall that, right? So right now there have been some adjustments in terms of the provinces moving down the scale because of the current situation. So basically more provinces have been moved down the scale to be in the orange or controlled zones. So the number of provinces in the controlled zones, the third from the top of the scale, has increased. So currently, all in all, there are now remaining 23 provinces in the dark red zone, 30 provinces in the red zone, and 24 provinces in the orange zone. Previously, this was more concentrated in the dark red zone, so it has shifted down a bit to the orange zone. Also, adjustment of measures for the maximum controlled and strict, or the dark red zone, include the curfew time. This has been shortened from 10 p.m., now it's 11 p.m. From 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. is the new curfew time for the dark red zone. 11 p.m. to 3 a.m. for a period of at least 15 days in the dark red zone, which includes Bangkok. This will be effective on the 16th of October. Also effective on that date are the opening hours for businesses, which is slated to be adjusted to be the closing time at 10 p.m. or 2200 hours instead of 9 p.m. or 2100 hours. Meetings and traditional festivals, cultural activities in exhibition halls, conference centers, and similar types of establishments can now be held. And of course, care facilities for the elderly can now accept daytime visits. One issue which Dr. Thuisin mentioned, which was discussed in the general meeting as well, was the procurement plan for the Monopiravir medicine. The CCSA approved the Public Health Ministry's plan to procure Monopiravir at the number of 50,000 courses, not doses, but courses, 50,000 Monopiravir courses, aiming to reduce the death rate of patients who have not been fully vaccinated. So that has been approved this morning. So as mentioned in the beginning, which would be of interest to the English language audience, is about Thailand Pass. Basically, the shortening of the process of documentation for Thai and foreign travelers. As you know, the COE, there's a lot of documents required there. So just to recap first, since April 2020, last year, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has approved more than 400,000 certificates of entry. Now, not 40, but 400,000 certificates of entry, or COEs, for both Thai nationals and foreign nationals for international travel to enter the country. Now, that was since early last year. So now with the change in the situation, according to the policy that we have, which is we want to ease travel, the ease of traveling policy, so to speak, this system will be called the Thailand Pass. And it will soon be adopted to replace the issuance of the COE. And it is expected to shorten the process of documentation for Thai and foreign travelers entering the country. Less documents, easier process than the COE. This Thailand Pass system is expected to be launched on the 1st of November 2021, with some exceptions, as the COE may be required for certain groups of travelers, those entering alternative hospital quarantine, those entering through land borders or through yachts and cruise ships. So that will still be applied for COEs. But the general population coming into Thailand, the Thailand Pass will make things much easier. So I realize that, of course, a lot of documentations were required for the COEs when you contact the Thai embassies abroad, but this new system will shorten that process since, of course, the situation has improved more or less in the general sense in Thailand. So let's look forward to Thailand Pass on the 1st of November. Lastly, we have the issue about the World Health Organization approving AstraZeneca produced by Siam Bioscience. So last week, on the 11th of October, this past week, the World Health Organization informed that the Siam Bioscience manufacturing site has been added to the list of alternative manufacturing sites for AstraZeneca AB as part of the Emergency Use Listing, or EUL, granted to the company. This certification by WHO has reflected the production standard of Siam Bioscience that aligns with international standards. So travelers with AstraZeneca produced by Siam Bioscience in Thailand will be entitled to the same rights and measures applicable to other vaccines on the EUL list. So just before closing, I'd just like to mention that as we prepare to reopen establishments and welcome tourists to generate more income for communities and drive the economy while being very careful about the health issue, the Public Health Ministry advises the public to follow 4 main measures. I mentioned this often, to safely reopen the country, the city, for visitors. First, achieve the vaccination goal. This is very, very important. Your support is crucial. Second, have maximum self-protection, or what we call universal protection. Third, test with the antigen test kit, or ATK, often. Lastly, follow the guidelines for the COVID-free setting environment set by your area. So with all these measures, we are confident that the COVID situation can be controlled further in a more strict sense, and members of the public can continue to live their lives under the new normal style. So with that note, I thank you very much for your attention, and we'll see you again tomorrow. สวัสดีครับ